Guys, in business, sometimes you have to make a pivot. And today we're talking about the importance of being able to see that coming, having the foresight, and executing it. And we're here with an amazing guest today, Alain Nader, who's the beer king of the West Island. We're excited to get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Montreal's Elite Unleashed. I'm your host, Logan Boyce. With me as always is Jonathan Ehrlich. Hello. Montreal's Elite Unleashed is a podcast for hustlers looking to level up their lives. Today we're talking with and having a discussion with Alain Nader, who is the person who runs Epicerie Prette. My French accent is horrible. I apologize for that.
Perfect. It's
How are you doing, man? Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me over. It's nice
it's going to be a
finally
blast.
come and visit your studio.
Yeah.
This is nice.
It's our little pop-up studio. We have a ton of fun. But so, Al, first things first, because obviously we talked about the importance of making that pivot in your business. And I don't think I've ever met somebody that's done it more successfully than you in terms of you had a dépanneur business. It is what it is. The dépanneur business is it's good, it's whatever. But then you made that pivot to really focus on local businesses and local breweries and microbreweries. And now whenever somebody thinks about microbrews and buying beer in the West Island, they think about coming to you. So how did that come to be?
Well, as you said, we were always a regular dep, selling the regular stuff, doing the regular things. And, and it worked. It worked for I'd say about 10, 12, 14 years. And then business started changing. So you have to adapt. You can't just sit down and say, oh, what's happening? So we kind of looked at the market, saw what was needed, checked out the trends. Mm-hmm. And then you go, okay, you know what? Beer is interesting. I already have the proper license, the beer in the store, but the beers we had weren't very interesting. So we started learning about beers, trying some beers, local stuff. And then we grew through that. And then with beer comes other little items that you go, oh, this will go nice with a beer. So you get fancy chips and fancy sausages and fancy stuff. And again, small local things that add on to that business. And then you kind of replace, you kind of move on and you replace the old stuff with something new.
It's cool that you're saying local a lot. It sounds like you have a very big focus on local. Was that something that you were thinking about as you were like getting the beers going? Or was that just something like the local beer people knew the local for the other groups?
Well, locally is because we're small, right? So depending on the size of your business, you kind of try to deal with suppliers that are kind of your size. They'll understand your needs. They'll be more flexible. They'll offer you things that the bigger guys don't care because your volumes aren't there. So we went with local guys, something small. You build a relationship and you say, okay, how can we work together and be profitable for both of us?
Who was the first brewery that decided to start supplying you?
Oh boy, that's a good question. The initial ones were the only ones in the beginning. We had something called Charlevoix.
Oh yeah, of course.
Charlevoix, which is still around, and they're solid and
super
good.
solid. They're big now.
They're big, and they kept a nice craft style beer, so it didn't go into mega brewery. So it's still kind of well made, artisan made. Mm-hmm. It still has the craft taste. Yeah. So that was one of the first. There was a lot of little ones that started popping up, and then you weed them out. You choose the better ones.
Sure.
Castor was one of the first as well.
Oh yeah,
they were solid from day one. I love Castor. Then who else did we have that was pretty big?
Do you have any like inspiring stories or interesting stories around like one of the beers or how you built a connection with one of these breweries, or is it just simple reaching out?
Well, my favorite brewery, just because we hit it off, me and the owner, from the second he walked into the store, Max from Midil parked his truck with the beautiful...
What's up, guys?
Hey, there it is.
We're repping you.
He's such a proud guy. It's a company that's owned, that's in Terrebonne, owned by two brothers.
Yeah.
Etienne is the brewer and Max is the business guy.
Yeah.
And he walked in and his truck was nicely lettered. Mm-hmm. It was clean. It was sharp. He walks in with, I think, 4 or 6 beers of the variety of beers he had. And right away, he offered me the beers without, hi, my name is Max. I have this company. The cans were super nice, very classic. They're still the same look up until today.
Yeah, super nice.
And then he was very friendly and very proud of his product. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't shy. He goes, try them. I know they're true to the styles that they are. Mm-hmm. Quality was number one for them. The brewer, his brother's amazing. He was in his 20s and he brewed like a brewmaster that's been brewing for 30 years.
Good for him.
Yeah. And it's just the presentation, the way he was sure of his product. He had a good quality item. The product was nice. The marketing on it was nice and simple, nothing too fancy. And yeah, I really like their style, and we're still best friends up until
Were they
now.
the guys that did the collaboration beer with you?
Yeah, they did my anniversary beer.
That's so cool.
Unfortunately, it was during COVID, so we couldn't promote it much.
Right.
We'll do another one. We'll make another one with them. It was
I have one of them. In
Still
my
have
house.
one of them? Yeah.
I have it in storage. I'm never going to open it.
I still have one that's
It's a
not
collector's
unopened yet.
edition.
yeah, I've got to keep it as a collectible, of course, man. That's going to be worth money later.
And surprisingly, there's raspberry in that beer,
Mm-hmm.
and very few brewers will be able to make a beer that's stable for 2 or 3 or 4 years with fruit in it. That's not going to taste horrible,
Right.
or it's going to go rancid, or that's going to explode or ferment in the can. His product is like perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the good. That's what I like about companies
I
like that.
heard that Bose, the reason why they got acquired was because their beers were exploding.
They had issues with their lighter beer, and for some reason the fermentation was kept on going in the cans
Right.
and the bottles. And in bottles, it's a bit scary sometimes because you have to be an expert brewer to make a beer that's stable,
Yeah.
good, and ship it and be confident that it's going to be perfect for the shelf life that it's going to be on the shelf. I mean, worst case scenario, it gets flat with time, which is fine, but you don't want it to keep on fermenting. So that's a problem some of them had. Even though Bose had a huge lab and they knew what they were doing,
I've been there many times.
They couldn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
And then when what's his name?
The steam whistle guys.
Steam Whistle bought him.
Yeah.
I mean, Lucktrade is still around, still good,
Yeah. Still solid beer.
solid beer.
Yeah.
I think beer is one of those things that is so it's a niche, like it's niche down, and some people will really appreciate the craft. Some people will really just like they want like the generic beer. I think like the first time that I actually got into a really interesting different type of beer was actually Innocent Gun.
Yeah.
And I was in Sweden, and I was given this Innocent Gun, and I was like, what is this? And then it was, oh, try it. You really got to try it out. And I tried it, and I was like, oh my God, this was great. And then after that, it was like, if you like that, you'll probably like this. Hey, if you like that, you should try that paired with this.
So what you're saying is it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope.
It's a gateway, gateway to better beer.
You don't know anything until you start to learn it, but then some people know it, and then they kind of guide you through it. And I think that's one of the things I love about going to your store, Al, is like, you just know people. You know the people, and you know what their tastes are and what they like. So it's like you're like, I want to get a beer for this occasion with these people, and what should I do? And you can, without being a sommelier about it, you can tell.
I could guide them. Yeah. I mean, and I know the taste, and I know things that aren't going to be offensive. And like some of the beers are very complex. So some of them are made with wild yeast and stuff like that. You give a beer like that to somebody the first time, and you got them off beer, because it's tough to even. It took me, I wouldn't say years, but months and months of trying wild yeast to kind of finally develop the palate for that. So yeah, you don't start somebody off with something too complex, but you work them through them.
Right.
And then you understand that some people like sour beer, some people like sweeter beer, some people love the hops. So you kind of, guide them there.
My parents have been living like a stone's throw away from your shop for forever. And I remember when we first moved into that property, I was like 10 years old. And it was such an amazing experience. And it's actually funny. I don't think you've ever heard this story, but one of the first mornings that I woke up, we didn't have anything in the house. We had just moved in, right? And it was so cool. It was like the coolest house we've ever lived in, and it was gorgeous. And I was like, oh, guys, like, if we need something, like I'll just run to the Point Claire Village and get it. And Mom was like, cool. Well, we need milk, we need this and that, whatever. And sure enough, I come to your spot, and when I'm thinking about that, first of all, the ambience is great, and what I noticed right away was that you know everybody.
For sure.
So
for sure.
I'd love to hear about what you think the importance of being kind of like the local figure that you've become. How has that impacted your business?
Well, we have a very small population in Point Claire. We gotta remember that it's a small place on the edge of a lake with a huge gulf next to us. So the population is fairly small.
Yeah. I would also argue, though, if you tripled the population, I don't think it would change your perspective and
no,
how
just
many people...
say hi to more people.
Yeah, exactly.
No more stories about the dogs and more stories about the kids.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So it's a small community. So you have to take care of every person, because every single one of them matters.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not to say that you want to be walked over, but there's amazing people in Point Claire. So, and half of them, or more than half, 95% of them are great people that I admire a lot. They take care of me. I take care of them. I've seen their kids grow up. I've seen the kids become doctors. I've seen the kids become, professional hockey players, and
Yeah.
some of them actually went to the Olympics. Like it's kind of cool
Yeah.
to see that. So you grow with the community kind of grows around you, and you grow around, like you grow with it, and it makes you want to come to work more often compared to a job where you're like at a 9 to 5 in an office and stuff like that. My job is more fun. You kind of, it's not really work sometimes, it's just hang out with friends, and then they give you money on top of it all, which is the best,
Man, that's we need to clip that part because that's amazing. It's like, it's not really work; it's hanging out with friends, and they give you money.
It's yeah. That's basically what it is.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, when I was thinking back at that moment where I entered your shop for the first time and bought a little thing of milk and whatever it is that I bought there, man, the look of it has changed so much. Like 2/3 of your store now, maybe more, is now all of these different like microbrew and local business beers and things around that. So obviously that's like a huge decision to make, to say, you know what, all this other stuff I was carrying, it's not serving me. It's not. So like what happened to make you make that decision where it's like, no, none of this is working. We're going this route. What happened in the business for you to have to make that decision?
Like I said earlier, we're small. So when I talk to somebody like a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or I mean the large breweries, Labatt's and Molson, I'm nothing to them. So if they lose me as a customer, they're not losing much. So they don't work very hard to keep us.
No.
And they see us as more of a nuisance. So they want to make the most out of the small guys. They just, sadly, they suck the energy of the small guy, and they say, oh, well, we'll give you service and this and that. But technically you're overpaying so much that the very little service they're doing does not compare to how much it costs you.
It's not worth it.
So when I dropped Coca-Cola, when I dropped Pepsi, even the 2 major cigarette companies, or 3 major cigarette companies, which I don't care much for anymore. We have the product, but we don't advertise it. We don't talk about it. Some people need it, and I have it, but I will not promote it. And even Labatt's and Molson's, they just disconnected with the customers. All they wanted to do was profit, and no quality, no true service. Even when they did certain items like the 10% and 9% that we're making horrible beer.
They were bad. The last good product I saw Molson make. Do you remember Molson M? Do you remember that?
M.
It was like a black label Molson product with this gold, and their advertisement was that they made it with champagne yeast.
Yeah.
And
but it didn't last very long.
The micro bubbles.
That was a good.
That's probably why they stopped it.
For a journeyman beer, that was a decent beer.
Yeah.
It does not compare, of course, to all the selection that you have available now.
No.
But imagine, how long ago was that? 12 years ago was the last time they put out a
product. And it didn't last long. They didn't keep it long because people, that's not what they want from a name Molson,
No, they just wanted their export.
Their other technique would be to buy small micros.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, as long as they let the micro do its thing, the product would work. The second the accountants started brewing, as in influencing the brewing, then the beer went to hell, because you just can't have a numbers guy make something artisanal. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't happen.
Wow.
Everybody does their thing, like everybody does,
Well, it's interesting because you're in like a flavor industry with beer, but I remember when you were pivoting, there were a couple of things that you tried. It wasn't like you pivoted right away and you succeeded. There were a couple of things you didn't. Like what was going on there? You tried a couple of things and then.
Well, initially we had tried to open up a little coffee shop with almost at the same time as slowly going into that. We didn't do it right, and you learn, like there's a proper way of doing things, and I probably didn't put the right effort, the right energy in it. Maybe it was maybe life things happen to people in their lifetime that they cannot put all the energy where it should be.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you fail, you kind of learn things. You learn
time.
to kind of, okay, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, and next time I try something, I will not make the same mistake, which is kind of good because you learn.
Of course. Yeah.
Versus saying, oh well, everything sucks and whatever, people aren't good. So it's just sometimes we make bad decisions, or we don't anticipate the reaction of people to the way how people reacted, right? So sometimes you have to learn the needs of the people around you and then adapt it. And that's what we did with the beer. We just saw, we educated people, and then that worked, but the other stuff didn't work as good. But you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of people will make mistakes and they'll weigh on the mistakes. And I love even just you talking about it right there is so cool because you were like, it didn't work, but hey, this did work. And we focused on that, pivoted over there and really were able to build that out.
Yeah.
I think for me, my introduction to Epicerie Prette was working with Logan's dad and Logan and our group.
Yeah.
Your shish was legend.
Legendary.
And it still is legend.
Well,
That sauce, though.
It's
Yeah.
what we've been doing for the longest time. And again, we didn't change the quality. We didn't change anything. We just kept on going with something that works, kind of, like if that's what people
Yeah.
like, that's what you work on. You
course.
focus, you keep it up.
Yeah.
You don't modify anything. If it works, it just works.
Yeah.
You kind of make it, like, yeah, you don't change winning formula. You don't change.
If it ain't broke,
If it ain't broke,
fix it.
you add on things.
I promise I won't tell anybody if you tell me the recipe for the garlic sauce right now. Don't worry, we'll mute everything.
But yeah, that was like we'd have to go and move like 3 fridges, and then like we'd
That I
have to go
remember.
just like so much stuff that we'd have to do,
Yeah.
and we'd be beaten and battered, and we'd be like, okay, can we finally have
That was like the
shish?
bribe from my
Yeah.
parents when we were kids. When we were like 16, like moving all the furniture from my parents, it was like, it's okay, guys. Maureen's gonna go to Al's and get a shish. We never called. Well, I don't think I've ever called your business Epicerie Prette. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
always
But
Al's.
it's not you. I've been wanting to change the name for years, and then it was my dad's decision to call it Epicerie Prette because back in the day, and you guys are way too young, but there was something called Perette's, and Perette's was a chain,
Okay.
and there was one actually in the village where, right next to the grocery store, right next to Epicure, there was a little store,
Oh yeah.
and it was a Perette, became a Sedjo or whatever. But Couche-Tard bought it over in the 90s, and then the name was forgotten. But my dad said, we'll call it Epicerie Prette, and people remember it, and the Anglophones will call it Prette, like Perette, which sounds almost the same, Prette
Yeah.
and Perette. 2 minutes later, without advertising, people forget names. So
Yeah.
like nobody remembers Twitter now. They're calling it X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's a bit of the same. People forget if you don't advertise it all the time, it kind of goes away.
Yep.
And that's what happened with the name. I was actually going to call it Alcatraz
Alcatraz. That's
Alcatraz.
cool.
Interesting.
because
Yeah.
Do it.
I have a view to the water. I have bars in the window, and I can never leave. So it's a bit of so that's my story with Alcatraz.
Oh my
you know?
god, that's so
yeah.
funny. Oh my god.
awesome.
I want to go.
Holy crap.
Just some days in a week, I like to leave.
So I asked Al to bring some beers. I actually told him bring his favorite, and I think you brought favorite for this time.
For this
or-
time of year, yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
so which one should we have first, Al? You're the connoisseur.
Well, since we're in Point Claire,
Yeah.
we have to,
Ah.
do a shout out for our buddies at La Brosse.
La Brosse,
They make
what's
great
up,
work.
guys?
They're on La Brosse Street. They have a nice terrace.
I know the head brewer
Well, it's
here.
not for the
It's
time of year, but they have
so
a nice place to have some beers inside. They do some food. The ambiance is good. Their 2 new brewers are absolutely phenomenal. They used to brew for something called Wood Brothers out in Ontario,
Okay.
and they eventually moved on.
Mhm.
And they're the head brewers at La Brosse, and they do a wonderful, wonderful product. They
So
they
this
make all
is
kinds of stuff.
Marzen. What is
It's a
that?
Marzen. It's a German style.
It's like a
Um,
red or
It's
German
it's an
stout?
amber. No, German style.
German style. Okay.
It's very good for this time. I mean, Marzen usually is like I said, a spring beer, but actually
yeah.
it's not as dark as it usually is, but it's pretty nice. As it has a bit of amber.
I'm trying to get the audio.
It's an amber. It's an
amber
amber.
because I think that'd be
It's
cool.
an amber.
Okay. It looks like a white beer almost. Like it looks
Well-
like a doesn't look ambery.
Doesn't look too good.
Slightly ambery.
Yeah.
Life on Marzen is the name of this beer that we're trying right
You
now.
gotta save some for Alex.
Oh no, Alex is getting full ones after.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
We discussed it. Cheers, Al. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'm excited to try these
Cheers.
beers right now.
Yeah.
Gotta get the nose.
See, you can taste the grain in it.
Dude, that's so good.
It is very nice.
Oh my god, that's good.
Ooh.
What?
Okay, well,
Oh, yeah.
Alex needs to get a sip. Come on.
Yeah, this is something that you can kind of drink all day long.
Yeah, you can taste the grain, but it's like really good.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely taste the grain. It's
There's
definitely-
wood. There's wood in
Yeah.
there.
It is.
And
So
there's
like-
like slightly a hint of smokiness in it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It smells. It tastes like I don't know, like a smoked oak barrel or something like that. It tastes like it was aged in that way, but I know that probably is not the case.
This is
But
my
it's
first one
frickin'
this
delicious.
year, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is the first time I drink this version of it. This is very nice.
So what's nice is you said when you brought this out for this season, this is your favorite for this season. And I find that's so true. This is like, it warms you up kind of a beer. You're not going to drink this
on a hot summer day. It doesn't go down.
Exactly.
It'll go in the spring, fall.
Yeah.
Winter, you can even go for like.
Oh yeah, I would drink this in the winter.
But this is a
for
wintry
sure, not
beer.
summer. Yeah, I find summer is the time where you need to have that like really crisp, lager style beer versus the other ones. You can pretty much have anything. You know?
How does it chug though?
Very well.
How does it chug? What would it taste like from a boot?
You're gonna have to ask Ricardo for that one.
Who's Ricardo?
Ricardo, the race car driver.
He's
He's Australian, so it's an Australian thing. I think.
Yeah. No, German.
Is it German?
Das Boot.
Das
yeah.
Boot, yeah.
Oh, I always thought it was Australian.
That used to be on my party trick back when I was younger.
That's terrible, though.
John's a beast.
It's a glass boot.
He
It's
used
not
to
like
be
a
able
boot.
to
It's
do
like
an
a glass
entire.
boot.
John used to be able to do an entire boot in like under 4 seconds.
No, it was like 6, but yeah.
Whatever, dude. I'm
It's fine.
gonna exaggerate it because it's fun and nobody's gonna know the difference. But
3 seconds.
it was 3 seconds. He did the entire boot. No, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think you enjoyed that beer.
I really liked it. I'm definitely like I'm going down after
This
this
is
and
a-
buying a few.
I'm such a
this is
slow
up my alley
sipper.
too. I don't like white beers. I don't like things that are too hoppy. So this is like right up my alley.
Yeah,
is
like
really nice.
I don't mind hoppy as long as it's a smooth hops. If it's bitter, it's just like got to be in the mood for it.
That's
What-
it. You got to be in the mood for it.
Yeah.
100%. Al, so you're down in the trenches from an economical perspective.
Yeah.
People are coming to you for everyday items, but also people are coming to you for frivolities, things that they don't necessarily need. So what are you seeing right now in the tail end of 2023? What are people spending their monies on? What are they cutting back on? Are they cutting back on anything?
They're definitely cutting back. During the COVID, what we call the COVID period, I mean, people had a lot of time on their hands. They weren't spending any money anywhere else. So no restaurants, no outings, no vacations, no nothing. So they had a lot of expendable cash.
Yeah.
And they were bored. So they were, and beer is actually a fun thing to discover.
Of course.
And experiment and explore and whatever. And there's so much of it. So it would be people's fun to discover new beers.
Mm-hmm.
But then with time, they realized some did actually overindulge. I think they're cutting back health-wise just to make sure that, you don't overconsume, which is, it's never encouraged to overconsume it. Beer should be a fun thing. You should have a beer to enjoy yourself, not to drink
Not to
silly.
forget,
Unless
not
it's a fraternity and a bunch of people having fun at a party, then it's fine. But on a daily basis, maybe, I don't know, I would say 3 to 6 beers a week to me is okay for somebody that enjoys beer.
Sure.
It's not like it's not a prescription, but it's like
So you've noticed that you were noticing the people during the pandemic were overbuying
but they
beer?
were overbuying. They were overbuying.
Okay.
They were over drinking, but
He's calling you out, Alex.
The stats are clear. though. No, but seriously, the stats are clear on this. During the pandemic, people really did like the
100%.
level of addictions that have started during the pandemic was insane. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me.
boredom and stress kind of help to develop.
Yeah,
You know,
of course.
some-
Anxiety. You don't know what the
bad-
hell's going on.
bad habits, something to calm you down, which is not supposed to. This is not what it's supposed to be for.
Right.
So they're cutting on stuff like that. They're a lot of people went to completely non-alcoholic beers. So I'm selling a ton of non-alcoholic beers, which is a new category that's we never in our life ever thought we would sell any non-alcoholic beers. Like
Before my wife got pregnant, I would have never had any kind of experience with that either.
I'm
But
seeing
now-
them all over
Yeah.
too. Yeah. There's a whole section now. For
That's the reticular activating system, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you go shopping for a car and you're looking at like, I don't know, the Chevy Equinox or something like that.
And
Then
then
all you're gonna see
all
is the
over,
Chevy,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah, true.
and those still were there. It's not like because you went and test drove it, now there's more. That's not the case. It's
as if your conscious,
your brain is going to see it, right? So
Connects to
anyway, that's interesting. So people are buying non-alcoholic beers. Is it just
non-alcoholic beers, non-alcoholic gins, non-alcoholic cocktails,
like the
mocktails.
Haven brand or whatever there.
Oh, there's so many. There's so
Yeah.
many. I have something called Hickson. I have something called the Ushlag. I have something called the HP Juniper. And they actually made a tequila, which is insane. So if somebody wants a margarita, you can have a
What?
margarita, virgin margarita, which is pretty good. I mean, at least there's
crazy.
a lot of flavor with lemon and lime and stuff like that. So
right.
it works. But
So
that's
from a booze perspective, people are buying less beer. People are buying a little bit more of the non-alcoholic stuff. What about the day-to-day stuff? Like the people who are coming in, like lunchtime people or your regulars and all that? Have you noticed a dip from an economical
We're
perspective?
lucky that people in the area are comfortable, so it's still okay.
Yeah.
It's a higher income area.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a more
So
affluent area.
we're not. I don't think we don't describe what's happening on the whole relative of Montreal.
No.
Yeah.
You know, we're very privileged. We're very lucky to be where we are.
100%.
But they will sometimes you notice people that they would need a credit card sometimes because like at my store we don't take credit cards, which I know is a negative, but the costs are crazy, so we kind of
never
let
mind
go of that.
Yeah.
And my customers understand they don't want to put a burden on me. If they have the cash on me, they're going to spend it.
Right.
Yeah.
But some people just don't have, and that sucks when you see that. It's tough because we shouldn't be. None of us in Montreal should be in this position where we cannot buy a sandwich.
Well,
I think
credit
is
card
rough.
debt is at all-time high right now.
Yep.
Literally all time. You know, everybody's mortgages are coming due pretty soon. So I don't know what's going to happen there.
They're
But
talking about 24, 25 with a lot of the renewals are happening 24 and 25. I think.
yeah, yep.
It's going to be an interesting thing to see. And I think because you're in the trenches, you're going to see it full force. But to your point, I mean, you're in a very interesting area, especially for what you're doing too, because like it is an eclectic area. It's not like an area where people don't appreciate local business.
No.
Like, I think people love local business in this area.
They're very supportive. They're very supportive. We could do better. Honestly, we could do better. You go to Costco, and we're all like, I go to Costco to purchase stuff for the store. So sometimes I'm also responsible. But some of the things I cannot find anywhere else. No, I know. Sometimes I feel shame. Don't worry about it. But I don't for myself. I don't buy anything at Costco because it's just too big. I live alone. I mean, there's no.
Yeah, of
I don't need
course.
to buy a family size anything. But we buy a lot from big names, big brand names.
There was a big push during coming back to COVID, but there was a huge push of like buy from places in Quebec. You guys remember that? There was like TV ads on Habs games and stuff like buy your milk from Quebec, buy cheeses from Quebec, buy all these different places, buy local, buy local, buy local. That seems to have gone away.
Yeah, they had the panier bleu.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
exactly.
program. They're thinking of letting go of it because I think money. That's the beer. Sorry, children.
I hope the mic picked that up so bad.
It'll happen again. I'll refill.
There we go. Yeah, we still got
But
round
yeah,
two
buying
coming.
local is it would be nice if everybody went back to that, but the reality is buying local sometimes is a little more expensive.
Well, that's it. And I think it's the perfect storm of if it is going to be an economic downturn, you can't have both. You can't tell people, hey, you're struggling with money, but also spend more of it.
Spend more of it, yeah.
Anyway,
when there's an option.
if I've learned anything from the government, it's all we got to do is just print a lot more money, right, guys?
That's it.
Right? We just print. Can we just
Press the
we
printer
should find those printers somewhere.
just press the button? Like, just give me more. I want
But
more free money.
I do think that it is interesting from your perspective because I think your business is safe, right? There are some businesses that are less safe in a recession.
100%.
There's always going to be people who need the services that
I
you
will
offer.
most probably have to modify a few things. Get less expensive items.
Like what? Like what?
Like for example, we never did a lunch special.
Mhm.
Right now we started doing a lunch
saw that.
special.
Oh.
Again, not because the people need it, but sometimes you want to give say, hey guys, I appreciate it. I will give what I can. And sometimes people think, I mean, on a $10 purchase, how much money can I give off?
No,
it's not like it's $1 million that I can, I'll give you $20,000 off or whatever. But this is a small item. So when we take off 75 cents or $1 or $1.50, it's what we can do as a gesture. I can, and I think we will have to do more of things like that.
Well, I don't think people really understand how much the cost of everything has gone up.
No,
We
not at all.
I was talking, we were sitting at lunch at Duke and Divines. Have you been to Duke and Divines in Beaconsfield? Amazing place. Shout out
very
Carrie.
good.
Love you, buddy. We were sitting down with him and he was describing, I'm probably going to mess up the numbers. So already I apologize, but he was describing the cost of a bag of potatoes because he specifically gets his potatoes specifically from a place in Nova Scotia where his family grew up. Again, I might be messing that up as well. Sorry. But the bag of potatoes when he was started was something like, $10 or whatever. And now that same bag of potatoes is like $40 something or 50 or 60 or whatever it is. It literally went up so much. And he hasn't passed that on to the clients yet. He obviously, he's a premium restaurant, obviously, to a certain extent. He's a premium pub. But he was describing that to me and I said, man, I don't think people understand. I don't think people get it.
No, because also like, there's a lot of people that work through offices and computers and high tech. And they're not down to the small costs.
Yeah.
And when you think of somebody making, I don't know, a few $100,000 as a software engineer, which makes sense because that's what the market wants, the trickle down of his salary to the company, to the guy using let's say that software to bring it down to the customer level, because eventually whatever you do trickles down to the small guy, right? I mean, that's how it works. From an airline and an aeronautic engineer to the passenger on the plane, the costs get pushed onto the
100%.
So they don't see that the higher these things get, those salaries and those costs, well, it trickles down to the small guy, and the small guy has at a certain point has to do something about it.
That's even at the front line too. When they raise minimum wage and stuff like that, it does the same thing. But now to look at like the cost that you have and then the margins that you make, you have to make that decision now. Do I just make the items more expensive so I still have my margin, or do I eat into my margin now?
Which obviously you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You sometimes have to, because some things, even for me, I'm reselling something and it doesn't make any sense. It's just too expensive.
Because you still have to hold the goods too.
That's what nobody sees. It's inventorying, and then sometimes you lose stuff. You have to throw things in the garbage. So what do you do? So like, how much should you lose, or how much should you make? I mean, nobody wants to lose, right? So you kind of have to make the decision of, like you said, either eat away a bit at your profit margin and say, okay, well, if I'm making $2 on something, I'll stay at $2, even though my margin isn't the same anymore. I mean, the price, will increase a bit, but not. Usually, you want to make the full margin of 30% or 35% or whatever it is. Yeah. And sometimes you can't. You just swallow a bit of it. Yeah. Like as simple as a pita bread. It went up 64% for the cost of pita bread, which is like it doesn't actually make any sense. No, but that's what it was. Sense. Thank God it was only 90 cents and went to a $1.40, but. Still 50 cents on a 90-cent item is a lot.
Of course, because that trickles down to, I'm sure lettuce didn't stay the same. I'm sure the
veggies are
the veggies went crazy. Chicken, I'm sure, went nuts.
Mayonnaise. Who would think that mayonnaise would just explode in price? I mean, it's just mayonnaise.
Ain't nobody buying Hellman's anymore, boys.
Yeah.
We're going.
Well, if you are, it's Ritzy.
We're going President's Choice. Let's go.
No, I do the Heinz one. I haven't gone. I can't go under. I cannot. You need a certain consistency. You can't.
Mayonnaise, you don't want to mess with.
So hold on. Al might have just given the base for the garbage sauce. Maybe. Is it Heinz?
I said I go to Costco a lot. I buy a lot of stuff from Costco. So some of it's from there.
All right, fair enough. Okay, round two, guys. What are we doing here? 1760 dark mild. La Chope Angus. C'est quoi ça?
So this lovely lady shows up to my store, and she says, I have this product, and we took this the space at the old Angus shops, and we turned it into a brewery.
Where is that?
I would have to look up the address, but you have it there. But so they took this old. It's I think they're facing are they facing the Molson building?
I don't know. It's Rue William Tremblay. I think it's close to there. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm always at the store. I never have time to go visit these guys. But she showed up, and her products were very nice. She's very British-inspired beers. She came in for a tasting. Everybody loves her beers. She makes one called Wimbledon, which is a blonde.
I'm so happy because
she
I've never
makes
tried
a British IPA that's really good. They make a red that's really good. They make good stuff, and she's actually a woman brewer. She's one of the there's a movement called the Pink Boots movement, and it's ladies that brew. So all the women brewers.
That's awesome.
Women weren't associated with beer initially, but now they're rocking it. They've gotten into the marketing of it, into the brewing of it, and everything.
So funny that you say that, because we do these like little social media things around the office, and one of them was like a beer tasting thing that we had done. And like we have a bunch of people on our real estate team, and everyone was like tasting the beers, and like some of them they were like, "Oh, that's not for me," and it's like a strong stout, and they're like, "Oh, it's not for me. Oh, that's like I'd give that like a 2 on 10," and like not liking it. And then like we got to Alex, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's got some molasses. So it's like this is not like a
Alex is the best.
It's like a porter."
She's the best.
And then like everyone was like, "Whoa, she really knows her stuff," but. Yeah. It's become more popular for, I think, women to get into beers and to get into...
Because before it was like the uncles that drank, he had a case of 24 and the guy with a big belly, whatever. Yeah. Now, some of the beers are very well made. They're sophisticated. And I think maybe women didn't dare try before. Always women had wine or ciders, and now they dared. But drink, and they loved it.
It is, to your point, like it's Barney from The Simpsons, right?
Wow. Where he's nice and coffee-ish, huh? I like this one. When we had the tasting, it was my favorite.
Wow, this is so interesting. It's spot on. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it says light beer here.
Yeah.
And it is. It's very, very light. It's 3.7%, and it tastes like a light beer, but it looks like a beast. And it's one of the easiest drinking beers I've ever had.
So
That's awesome.
The designated driver could enjoy one or two, maybe one.
Yeah.
one, just one.
Just
one.
Just one. Just one.
That is
That's super interesting.
There's so much chocolate on the nose too, which
Chocolate,
is
a hint of, I wouldn't say coffee, but like the roasted part of it.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
and we like when we did the tasting, that was probably the crowd favorite because it was light. Like I said, people are going lighter beers, less calories, less,
Yeah, fair enough.
This is the stuff that people want now. The 7, 8, 9% is they go, but just as a fun thing, as a once.
Oh, that's so true. This is a
like
3.7
basket type thing.
I just saw that 3.7%.
That's why we're day drinking.
There you go.
It's 5:00 somewhere. That's it. So, where do you think everything's going? Because your boots on the ground, Al, I think it's cool to talk about. You've seen the progression of where people went through the pandemic. You see where people are going now. And yes, we're in an affluent area. Of course, there's limitations, but a sample size is still a sample size. So where do you think we're going from a spending aspect around society? I think it's interesting. We were kind of talking pre-show about the fact that people can, barely afford lunch, but they got the iPhone 15.
I mean, it's not good to be too catastrophic, like to think too catastrophically, But I think we're gonna have maybe a rough year. Like you guys clearly know that the mortgage rates are coming up to renewal and things like that. Some people are gonna have to readapt, make choices of what they really need at home, what they really need in their life. Maybe tightening the belt a bit for everybody, which is it's actually not a bad thing to do, In my business, I know we will feel it, but luckily we've been around for a long time, so we know how to,
Shelf life of beer is pretty good.
Well, you purchase less, but you know how to weather the storm. Kind of say, okay, well, we're going to cut back on our expenses. Nothing fancy, no big renos that year or anything like that. Just no panic though. Like we've been through worse. I think we're gonna be good through it, but we'll have to adapt.
We make it out the other end, right? And you said no panic, like don't panic. And I think there are people who are feeling it more and they are probably panicking. And then there are other people who are like on the cusp of saying like, uh-oh, this is starting to get bad.
Well, listen, if you're going to panic, like just do something about it. Don't just panic for the sake of panicking. Like I'm all for taking a hard look at your credit card statement and being like, how many streaming services do I really need?
Stuff like that.
You know what I mean? Like things like that can really think. But one thing that I want to talk to you guys about, because I've thought about it so much, and maybe it's the fact that I've had a third of a beer twice now, but I think that there's something to this, and that we're living in an age where everything can be delivered to us.
Oh my God, yes.
And we're living in an age where cooking is kind of a thing of the past. And as somebody that makes food for a lot of people for a living, it's interesting that this hypothesis of like, do you just never buy groceries? So the idea is that it's the same reason that when you're stocking food at your store, there's a certain amount that shrink. It's just going to go away. Sure. It's going to go bad. It's going to go away, whatever. But if you're constantly just buying from the people that are preparing it for you, if you were to extrapolate that over a 30-day period, are you going to actually effectively save money?
So I actually think that if you're one person cooking for yourself, this can make sense. I think if it's a family and there's a lot of people, I don't think it makes sense, because I think you are right. When it's one person who's ordering Uber Eats.
What about two? What about two? I think it could work with two. The reason I say I think it can work with two is because like the two people can get the buy one get one deals.
Yeah.
Like I think this was like 3 nights ago. I literally ordered Thai Express, and I know I should be buying local. I'm an asshole, but
we're all the same.
So it was literally a buy one get one on the pad Thai, and it came up to like under $25 for both of them.
Yeah, you can't.
It was crazy.
We made tacos the other night, and just getting all the taco fixings to make tacos, it was like $45. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. I could get tacos at, I don't know, I can get poulet rouge for $40, and that is like a local place, and it would be $40. It'd be great.
Yeah,
and it'd be stuff that I didn't even buy because it's like they've got exotic like different things.
Right.
So I just went with base stuff, and it was for 2 people to cook. But if it's a family, then it starts to make.
I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love making chili, so you make a big batch of chili and you have enough for a week. But
true.
I'm a guy,
you make like
so
a giant thing
eat chili for breakfast, lunch, and supper. It doesn't matter.
Bro, I'm surprised you don't just live off of shish taouk. That's what I would do if I were you.
chicken is expensive. Even for us.
He's making it for us.
Even,
but
even for us, it's expensive. I mean, it's the cost of goods. Like, trust me, they've gone like way. Like we were saying that before, but they did go up to the point that chicken every day. I mean, you can afford it. It's not cheap. It's not like a cheap thing.
Yeah.
Well, Al, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Man, if you want to be elite, you got to meet the elite. And we did today. We met the king of West Island beers, Alain Nader.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, guys, to the podcast for hustlers looking to level up their lives. This has been Montreal's Elite Unleashed.